Hi, everybody. How are you? And welcome to Metaphysical Communion 7. And we are going to discuss the Great Mutation this evening. Now, this is a monumental event that's happening astrologically. It's the most auspicious occasion that has happened in over 800 years in the field of astrology. So first of all, let me introduce myself. For those of you who are new to the program, my name is DeAngelis Colon, and I am the host of Metaphysical Communion, program that's been going on since April of this year in answer to the fears and just concerns of people during the pandemic when it was at its height here in New York City. So this show, came as a response, to that, to offer support, encouragement, and just to take people away from their worries and their troubles, at least for an hour and a half or so on a weekly basis. So that's how the show began. Since then, I've been doing a series of programmings, and this is our second season. So tonight we're going to be discussing this incredible experience that's happening in the heavens. And we'll talk a bit more about the planets that are involved, the significance of this occasion, what it means for everything. So welcome once again to Metaphysical Communion. So we begin by saying hello to those of you who are out there watching the program this evening. This program is being recorded. So after Zoom, which is it being presented on, I will then be posting this on my Facebook page, DeAngelis Colon, Transpsychic Express, and also on my new YouTube channel named Metaphysical Communion. So you can catch this later on, there. So we'll be spending the next hour in discussion about the astrology that's taking place and the monumental shift that's going to be occurring for all of us. We have been undergoing this actually for a number of years. This is not at the exact moment it's supposed to happen that everything will change. As usual, things of astrology as well as metaphysical, psychic, mediumship, magic or so, a lot of these things take time to develop. It isn't a 1, 2, 3 thing that just happens instantly. This has been a slow and gradual process that has been taking place for a number of years, and we can go back even beyond 10 years, in 20 years or so. And we'll go more to the origins of this in a moment. So let me explain to you what the grand mutation is. The grand mutation happens every 200 years. It is found with the planets Jupiter and Saturn coming into alignment. This occurs every 20 years around this time period of December. So what that means that these both outer planets with a lot of energy, a lot of tremendous force, have a great deal of influence, on our world in all aspects. This year in particular is extra special. That begins, however, on December 21st, which happens to also be the winter solstice. So all the alignments are coming together. It's incredible how the universe works. There is no such thing as coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. So it is incredible that the planet Jupiter, the planet Saturn, are going to be coming together in an alignment in the heavens where they will be very, very close. I think like within 1 degree of each other, which is a very rare event. And it also happens to fall on the beginning of winter here in the Northern Hemisphere. So new beginnings are signaled everywhere. Now, we'll go along a little bit first with the grand conjunction, which also indicates the coming together of Jupiter and Saturn every 20 years. Again, in the time of December. And what this means is that these planets are drawing very close together in the heavens in astronomical degrees. So we have astronomy and we have astrology, working together. So for the physical aspect of things, 1 degree is so close that both planets are going to be in a line, literally in an alignment. So one planet will follow the other. That's how close they will appear. From the Earth and with telescopes, it will seem as both planets have converged. And when that happens, there's a great brightness that happens in the heavens. So it looks like a very large, very bright star, coming, across, from the heavens to the earth. So when we see this through telescopes, or if we're fortunate enough, through our eyes only, it will seem as a very tremendously bright star in the heavens. Now, that may sound familiar to you, and we can trace that back to 3,000 years ago. Again, during the time of December or so, as it is said, when the baby Jesus was born in Bethlehem, and the great star of Bethlehem shone brightly in the heavens. A star so bright no one had ever seen such a sight. What that could indicate in more mundane terms is that at that time the planet Jupiter and Saturn were in very close alignment. And hence the brightness of that star, seeing it from Earth to the sky, signaled the birth of the baby Jesus, the Christ child. Once again, we converge upon December with this alignment coming through and creating a very bright, shining body in the heavens. And this time on December 21st. So that is called a grand conjunction. Now, the last grand conjunctions for the past, let's say, 800 years, as I have learned, have all fallen in an earth sign. So the one that we are currently still under happens to fall in Capricorn, which is an earth sign in astrology. Now, the momentous occasion that is taking place here is that for the first time in 800 years, the Grand Mutation, which occurs every 200 years, when Jupiter and Saturn converge and when the sign changes, will not be in an earth sign as it has been the last 3 times. So we were in Capricorn this time, for this grand conjunction. 200 years ago, when these signs change, because the Jupiter and Saturn take many, many years to go around the sun. So it takes hundreds of years, many, many years for this to take place. So 200 years before that, we were most likely, I do believe, in the sign of Virgo, which is an earth sign. And then 200 years before that, it was the sign of Taurus, the 3rd earth sign. For those of you who are not familiar with astrology, we all have signs. There are the 12 signs, obviously, in the zodiac wheel. Every 3 signs is assigned a particular element related to the earth. The earth signs in astrology are, once again, Capricorn, Taurus, and it's escaping me at the moment. I have so much on my mind. And I just said it a moment ago. Capricorn, Taurus, and let me see. Who's the other earth sign, which will come to me in a moment. I'm so sorry about this. I suddenly blanked. Let me see. Yes, Capricorn is an earth sign. Taurus is an earth sign. And let me see, which is the final one, which is escaping me at the moment. Oh, things that happen, so much on the mind. Well, I'll get back to that in a moment, but there are 3. As there are also 3 fire signs, there are 3 air signs, and there are 3 water signs, as well. So in this case, for the very first time in 800 years, the grand conjunction falls into an air sign. That will be the sign of Aquarius. So this is known as the Grand Mutation. For the earth signs have passed at this point, and we're moving into a new era of signs, a new element, which is the element of the air, signified by the sign of Aquarius. This is a monumental, incredible event. So what this means for the world, for society, for individuals, is a tremendous change is coming for all of us. We have been seeing this, especially in this past year, with so much that has happened in 2020. 2020, a new decade. And look what has happened in this new decade, falling into the 21st century, still a young century, signified by the year 2000, and especially the year 2001, which was truly the beginning of the 21st century. 2001, which is anticipated for so long ago as a sign of change, a new century, a new beginning. And so it has been. And now with the second decade of this new century, with 2020, so much that has been shaken, on this planet to its core. With, of course, the coronavirus pandemic. Such a shifting that it caused for everyone on the world. No one could escape that experience. We've all had to readjust, open our eyes to see what's really in front of us, what really matters in the world. We've had to protect ourselves and shield ourselves in order to hopefully not contract this deadly virus, which has taken the lives of millions already as we speak, and currently is on the rise once again in the United States. We've had to adjust our way of living. We've had to awaken our minds. We've had to become more grounded, more realistic once again. We can't lose ourselves in our little, privileged state of existence, especially here in the United States. We've had to come to grips with what really matters. We've had to do with less. We've had to stay away from loved ones and people in a degree never anticipated. We've had to fight for our survival. That is just one of the symptoms or one of the symbols that signify, this great change that is upon us. But this goes back for the last 2 decades or more, obviously. We are falling under a new age in Aquarius, and Jupiter and Saturn are aligning. And if you recall, for those of you who were alive then, back in the 1960s, they were already speaking about, this alignment, especially with a very popular song of that era, known as the Age of Aquarius, which was recorded by the singing group, The Fifth Dimension, back in the mid-60s. It was a #1 hit. It was a sign, a herald of what was to come. Now, we must know this, that these changes, as I said a little while ago, don't happen instantaneously. In the world's existence, things take time. It takes decades, hundreds of years. The planet Earth is over 6 billion years old, if not even older, as far as scientists can tell. So for the Earth, a few decades or so are not really as long as it seems to those of us who live on the planet. And of course, our existence here is so minute compared to the existence of the Earth. We're only here just for a few decades. Some of us, if we're lucky, we may make it to 100 or more. Still, that is just a small little speck of dust in the eye of time compared to billions of years that the Earth has experienced. But for us, this takes time. It takes a long, long time, as you can see. So going back to the 60s, and even before that, there was already talk of such things from those who were in the know. There were always practitioners, sensitives, psychics, astrologers or so, who are already studying, these things, who are exploring about the changes to be. This is what they do as astrologers. Try to forecast what's ahead, for the world in general. And so they were aware. And now we are here at this time. We have finally arrived. And we are here with a group of people who are living in the world at this time who have a rebirth of the appreciation for things such as astrology, for knowledge of the metaphysics. It comes and goes in waves. Right now, we're riding a wave once again where people are becoming more aware. They're awakening, as they have been awakening for the past several decades, to the spiritual existence of things. So a lot of people are familiar to certain degrees about what is transpiring here. Others are still asleep. But they too are hearing this because there's so much conversation taking place about this lately that they are becoming educated, whether they want to pay attention or not, whether they think it's just frivolousness or foolishness or even insanity. That is up to them. Everybody believes what they believe in their own way. However, the knowledge is out there. People are speaking about this. For those who want to know, for those who believe, for those who want to learn, it is out there. We are providing this, to all of you. There are many people, astrologers, metaphysicians, practitioners, who have been talking about this for the last several years, and especially now, just in the last several months, and in particular, the last several weeks, as we draw closer, to the time, which will happen next week. We've been waiting for this forever, and it's finally arrived. And it has a feeling of hope, of change, in a positive way, finally. We have been through so much in the last several decades. Just again, going back to the 60s alone, such a great, tremendous time of change on the planet. It was a time where the old way of thinking from the industrial age, from the medieval period, from the Victorian era, was starting to fade into history. And it was the first step in a more modern era, a more scientific era to a greater degree than was previously seen before. Even though we were in an industrial age back in the 19th century, even farther back, 18th century, 19th century, early 20th century, more marvels of science were coming at a faster pace. As we see here now, everything's been accomplished because of that. But now we're moving into the next phase of that. We are going to be combining the spiritual and the science like never before. So, at this juncture, we are now finally bidding farewell to the age of Pisces, which we can go back to 3,000 years ago when Jesus was born in Bethlehem. And they say that that was during the time of Pisces, which was the time of peace, of supposed peace, of belief, of spirituality, religion. For Pisces encompasses all 12 signs of the zodiac. It is the 12th sign, and supposedly encompasses different aspects and characteristics of each and every sign. But now we're coming to an end. The time of Jesus, with its religion, with its belief, with striving for peace, fighting, for common union, is coming to pass. Jesus did what could be done at that time and died, for that, to set the example. And since then, people have been striving to attain that utopia, that belief, that heaven on earth. Of course, it has not been achieved. But there are those who have a driving force, many, 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 who are striving for that. And in time, whenever that may be, it will come. However, the time of the Piscean era is drawing to its close finally. And what we heard during this society's lifetime about the age of Aquarius is finally starting to happen. So it was a gradual process for the age of Aquarius to start to unfold. And the last 60 years just about, were about that, about this time of change, about this time of movement, this time of evolution, as we moved into the 70s, into the 80s, into the 90s. The 90s and the late 90s especially was the next change of era, where we were ending the eon of the 20th century and beginning the 21st. Around the mid to late 90s, it was known as a time of awakening. And thus society fell under the influence of the metaphysical. For the first time in many, many decades, there was an enlightenment in the atmosphere, an awakening of people wanting to come to spirit, wanting to learn more about this aspect. The industrial age, the scientific era was in place, and it's just as important and even more so than ever, and will be continuing to increase and grow. But now we have an age of the spiritual coming back again, which we had not seen since the early 20th century, when it started to die off, from there. The age of spiritism in the 19th century, which moved into the early 20th century of spiritists, started to fade, from public mind. But then suddenly, for some unexplainable reason, it started to fall upon us again, for many of us, to reawaken to that, to learn and to become tapped into the forces of the spiritual, which are a part of the earth, a part of our existence. It had been ignored for far too long. Something was missing. And that piece was it. It was starting to happen once again. We saw a number of people starting to awaken to this, speaking about spirit like never before. We saw many people coming to the forefront who were spiritual practitioners becoming popular in society, such as Sylvia Browne, John Edward, James Van Praagh, Rosemary Althea, Peter James, to name several. We going back into the 70s when we had our first spurt of interest once again in the spirit, more from let's say for a paranormal viewpoint. So we had people like Uri Geller, for instance, with his abilities to bend spoons and forks and stop watches or so. That was a form of telekinetic energy. We had people such as Peter Herkos, the great psychic, also becoming more prominent. We had those practicing from the spiritual realm, such as the great psychic Jean Dixon, who was the prophecy, and she was one who predicted about John F. Kennedy's assassination back in the 60s or so. And we had a few other people, Ruth Montgomery, who wrote her books on spirituality and astrology or so, Sidney Omar, the great astrologer as well, Kenny Kingston, the celebrity psychic, Sabrina Kincaid, another celebrity psychic also. Those people were well known. We had Shar Margolis also becoming more prominent as for her psychic abilities, or so, reading for the stars, reading for regular people, also. So we had a number of people back in the 70s who were introducing or reintroducing the interest of the psychic and paranormal realms once again. On a small, scale, just a few people who were interested in that at that time. Then it seemed to die off a little bit. But then in the late 90s, it resurfaced big time. And we had a lot of people becoming more interested and aware into this. I've spoken about this several times in other programs that I've done throughout the past year or so. So for those who have seen the program, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who are new, this may be fresh material for you. You've never even heard of some of these people. I advise that you look them up in the various internet engines out there. Fascinating people. They've written many books. They've predicted a lot of things that have come true. Also, they're very well known. Many of you, I do know who some of these people are, who I'm talking about. And so the late 90s was a time that was heralding the beginnings of the 21st century. And along with that was a renewed interest and rebirth of the spiritual. And along with that came astrology as well. And already they were talking about the coming of the new millennium and the changes that were going to be taking place, and astrological alignments that were going to be major in the shifting of our consciousness, the shifting of our spirit, the shifting of our vibrations. Thus, from there, we came into the year 2000, 2001, and then we came across 2002 through 2003. Another auspicious time in astrology, for we had the harmonic concordances that were taking place. We had those already happen in the mid-90s, which were another signal of things to come. And then we had the major harmonic concordance of the year 2002 take place in November of 2002. That was a shifting of vibrations of the energies. Also, we were going to be enlightened. We were rising up in our vibrations. Our vibratory levels were an increase. We may not have been feeling it as well. Many people may not have been cognizant of this, but there was a shift in a higher level. And it started a great deal, once again, from there. We had people such as Johnny Muriel, who was a great proponent of the harmonic concordance. And on that time period in 2002 of November, I think it was November the 8th, actually, that was the actual time of the harmonic concordance taking place. Throughout the world, there were numerous ceremonies taking place all around the world to welcome the harmonic concordance. I was fortunate enough to attend the New York Harmonic Concordance celebration here in Manhattan with Jody Sirota, who's a great metaphysician here in New York City. And she put together the Harmonic Concordance, a celebration in Manhattan up by the West 90s. I do believe it was the Church of St. Anthony and St. Francis, up near Amsterdam Avenue area. And it was a tremendous celebration. I was fortunate to attend along with a few friends of mine. And we had a wonderful, celebration and time there with Jody Sirota and the guests in there, providing prayers, energy meditations, music, drumming. It was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. We welcomed that concordance and that energy into the earth there. And throughout the world, other people practiced many different celebrations at that time. We had another concordance, I believe, in 2003 also, that took place with more celebrations as well, as we started opening up those energies at that time. Moving along, other shifts came with various eclipses or so, and other things astrologically that happened in place to start propelling us into this energetic change, the shifting of things, especially now in the 21st century. The 21st century has started off a bit rough, as we all know. It hasn't been the easiest of times in society, with governments, with wars, with various situations, even the late 90s as well. We had a few wars happening there too. Operation Desert Storm, 1992, 93 or so. Then we had the conflict of Afghanistan or so in the 2000s or so once again. Revisiting that a good, 12 years later or so. So we have had our moments throughout this entire shift. Change does not come easy on this planet. And there's a lot of discomfort when energies are shifting and people do react. And they're not fully aware as to why they react. They only see it from a mundane level of things, from cultures, from religions, from politics. But they're not really as cognizant, or so they don't lead us to believe, that they're not as cognizant about the metaphysical, spiritual aspect of things also influencing these changes as well. And if they do, they're not saying anything to us about it. That's something that they really don't espouse very much at all. They kind of like avoid that and say that a lot of this is ridiculous. This is just foolish beliefs. But as we've been finding out in the last several decades, more and more, the governments or so have had a great association with the spiritual aspect of things, with the paranormal, with the metaphysical aspect of things. And they have incorporated many of these things into finding out things from other countries, from other people spying or so. I could go on and on and on. That is a discussion for another time. And I've discussed that in previous programs, as well. Moving along, we now find ourselves in the year 2020, second decade. And the last 5-6 years, we have seen a change throughout this world where things become more difficult, more uncomfortable for all of us. Things have become more expensive. There are more poor people in the street than ever before. It's harder to find employment. It's harder to have time to do things. Time has been quickening. And we just don't have enough time to do all the things that we wish to accomplish anymore. It's not as easy. There's tremendous strain, great anxiety. We see more and more people suffering from mental illness, from anxiety, from depression than ever before. The stress of society in the world has reached an incredible amount that it's just incredibly uncomfortable for many, many people to exist in the world as it is now. And we've been seeing that going faster and faster in the last several years alone. More difficulties, more stress, more hostility amongst people. And we've seen it actually pouring out in the last year alone, like never before. It's been building and growing. We've seen hostilities. We've seen people clashing with what we've seen people behaving outrageously in ways that we've never seen before. We've seen things that we've never dreamed, to see happen, taking place. And in fact, we've become complacent about things at this point. And where incredible things happen, where 20 years ago people would have been absolutely horrified and just aghast, now they look at it and they say, well, it's 2020. So there's a certain complacency that's taken place, which is not the healthiest thing to have or to be living as. Not a good thing at all. So now we have reached 2020, and we've reached this time period that happens, as I said earlier, every 20 years with the great shifting of Jupiter and Saturn as they conjoin in the heavens, come closer together. I do believe they'll be like 1 degree or so apart in the heavens. Hence, they will look like a great grand star, to us from here, which looks like the return of the Star of Bethlehem. So this is the grand conjunction. The grand mutation, again, Jupiter and Saturn shifting from the earth signs after 800 years, now moving into Aquarius, the air sign. What does that mean for us? It means that there'll be an age of enlightenment coming upon us. It'll be a lighter period to be living under. We are very fortunate to be living at this time, to be able to experience and witness this event. Not many people get this. We are very blessed to be living at this time period and to be experiencing this. So despite all the incredible negativity, heaviness that we have endured in the last few decades, things are finally going to shift and change. The heaviness of the earth, the groundedness, the attention to too much material matters and concerns are starting to lift. It does not mean that being in earth signs or being grounded is a negative thing. Not at all. Never at all. We do need to be aware of the earth. We live on the earth after all. We are held here by gravity. This is our home. We have to be grounded. We have to be realistic about things. We have to be intelligent. That all falls under the earth as well. Groundedness, reality, accepting things as they are. Those are reality-based concerns and ways that we have to live. Those are most important. We cannot live without being that way after all. It is just when it goes into an extreme and it goes into the negative, where it goes into egocentricity, greed, pride, wanting more and more, wanting only for ourselves, wanting to be number one, no matter who we step upon, not having concerns for those in need, being, as I call it, me-centric. You're focused on the self. only. And the rest of the world, be gone. Not having concerns for others. Everything only for ourselves. Attaining more and more and more. Thinking that we are the most important thing in creation. When it goes to that extent where it's in the negative and it causes harm to others and harm to the earth, that is where that needs to come to a close. This change in energies from earth to air signals that hope and that opportunity to start living in the light, living with spirit, living with our heart, and focus on acceptance of others, on helping the planet heal, on thinking of all of us, not just on the self, so that we can all have everything that we need. No one should be without. No one should be struggling. No one should be in poverty. No one should be without unemployment for those who can. No one should be in the street, living for decades through just hope, if not even that. It is about joining everyone together and helping all of us, respecting everyone for who they are, removing the evil of prejudice, of discrimination, of hatred. Just because people are different in culture, in color, in race, and in behavior and beliefs. It is time to come together and accept and open to the differences of everyone, and learning as opposed to running away, and coming together and joining and embracing the differences instead of staying away and keeping them at bay and wishing them that they would not exist. Being grounded and intelligent for a moment, that does not mean that we have to accept negative behaviors or things that cause harm or imperil our lives or our earth. Those must be dealt with, and those must be put in their proper place, no matter what. It is about embracing the differences and the positive of all things and of everyone, and learning and appreciating and working together and helping the earth. We must save the world, and it's going to take everyone to do that. Unfortunately, people have become enlightened in the last decades, last few years especially, where we're starting to do just that. This is a sign of hope. There is still time to save the world and to save the civilization that lives on this world. It is time to save all 7 billion people of this world, and more. And here in the 21st century, as one of the elements that come along with this grand mutation and the change into Aquarian age, we're going to see advances just in all of those areas I spoke about the coming together, about learning, advancing. The sciences will start to take leaps and bounds like never before. We're going to see incredible changes taking place on the planet. We're seeing that already just in the last 3 or 4 years already, with new technologies that are taking place that are making our world more modern and discovering more and more things like never before. We are exploring like never before on this world. We now have the capability to do that. The Aquarian era is going to be opening doors like never before for all of us in the age of advancements, technology, and science. That comes along with this. We are seeing already things from the earth like never before through the use of LiDAR technology, where they can literally from the heavens and come down with the cameras that have been placed up there in satellites and look deep into the earth and go through as an X-ray and see what was there and has been there for millions of years before. And discoveries are happening more and more like never before. We're going to learn secrets of the world like you have no idea. What was prehistory will start to become history. We are seeing things advancing already as I speak. We see things advancing in Egyptology as they're discovering more and more burials and more hidden cities like never before. We are going down into the sea and exploring places that were never thought possible until just recently, and discovering things we never knew about the earth and about those who came before us. We are finding out things in pre-Columbian histories, in the jungles of Central America, about the Maya, the Aztec, the Inca. We're discovering new hidden cities beneath the jungles. Thanks to this technology, they are discovering things and events and doing archaeological digs that they never dreamed they could even 20 years ago, discovering new aspects of these people, discovering new civilizations. More and more and more is being revealed. We are seeing in Egypt, as I speak, finally, a dream come true for many in archaeology, where there's finally looking into closing in on finding the tomb of Cleopatra, something that was thought lost forever in time. Hopefully, I hope this year or perhaps very, very soon afterward, that will finally be revealed. And we will discover that incredible treasure, which could reveal so much about history in so many ways we cannot even imagine. We are discovering places and things in all other aspects of the world. Medicines with technology are taking place at a more rapid pace that are causing cures and healing like never before. There are advances happening where things that used to be hopeless or incredibly invasive to an attempt to cure are starting to become more commonplace. People are living longer now than ever before because of these changes in medicines and in health and wellness. And more is to come. People are living from diseases and illnesses that just in the past 10 years, they would have died from. Now they actually have a greater chance of survival and live a full and meaningful and healthy life. And we're going to see that happening at a more rapid pace. That is what is part of the Aquarian age. And that's what the Grand Mutation is the signal of, and the opening of that doorway, for all of us. A chance for more peace, for more technology, for learning from one another, and advances in travel. Advances that go not just from the ocean floor, but up into the heavens, as we have just seen recently in this past year, with rockets going up and taking humans once again into the heavens and into the space station, and more to come. And yes, this decade shall see people returning to the moon. And not only that, but perhaps in this decade as well, we're going to see people finally going to the planet Mars and colonizing that world as humanity steps forward into the cosmos and reaches to the stars. technologies and things that we never dreamed possible 50 years ago. But then we look back 50 years ago and more, and we see the wonders that took place there. We're just in 1900, just a little bit after the first airplane flew. And what? 50 years later, 60 years later, we had a rocket going to the moon. Right at the, let's say a little bit longer, right to the end of the 60s. We saw a rocket ship go to the moon, just half of the century. Whoever dreamed such a thing was possible? And yet it happened. And now we're taking that next leap in a more higher state. Technology has advanced like never before. We're going to do wonders like you have no idea. That is significant of the grand mutation, of these two heavenly bodies coming together with such incredible influence on the world. When we break it into parts, we'll look at Jupiter first. Jupiter, which is the grandest planet in our solar system. So vast and so large, its gravitational pull reaches even beyond the sun with the electromagnetic energy that emanates from that world. It has its influence always us on an astrological level as the great benefic, the great beneficence, expansion, growth, learning, freedom, happiness, brilliance, always wanting the best for all, and always wanting to give the best for all. It is expansion of the intellect, of the mind, and of the sciences. That is what Jupiter's energy influences on our world. The planet Saturn, the second most grand body in the heavens as well, exerts the energy of history, longevity, reality. It is grounded energy that comes upon us. It teaches us through difficulties. It teaches us through even suffering and pain. It does not make things easy. We have to learn. It is known as the taskmaster of the zodiac because it is the grand teacher. Learn from history, its longevity, because we never forget. From that planet, we learn to be real and hopefully truthful. And combined with Jupiter, they cause the greatest amounts of change, on this world. The root of what our existence is about, to be here to learn, to grow, to advance, to be open to reality and to things as they are. And as we do and as we learn, we advance, we evolve, we grow further and further. That is why the significance of these two worlds coming together is so important to all of us here on this world and in the energetic signature of existence. That is the grand mutation as it shifts from Pisces to Aquarius at this time, almost a millennia in the making. And we are here to experience that. The age of wars, of pain, of tremendous hardship, of incredible suffering, grand difficulties, is coming to a conclusion. We are entering the age of enlightenment in a way like we've never experienced before. We are evolving rapidly. Our vibration is moving faster and faster. We are understanding and comprehending things more than we ever have before, at least with this generation, this group of people on the world at this time. The world is very, very, very old. Millennia ago, there were other civilizations, other people. And perhaps in many ways, a lot of those people have been lost to us, for there's no history recorded, of them from so long ago. It may not even be fragments of what was once their civilization, even left to see or to learn from. We do not really know who was truly here thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of years before us. We know of some people from several thousand years ago or so, and who knows how older their civilizations were, but we don't know them from before them and who was here. All we have are remnants, ruins, clues of things, of other people, other beings that lived on this world so long ago, whether they were original from this planet or whether they came from somewhere else. There are fragments that have been left behind, but not anything concrete enough to inform us, to tell us that yes, to give us validation. Yes, these beings were here once before, whether from the earth or if they came from the heavens, from the stars, from other worlds. All we have is conjecture. We have fragments of things. Why is that? Age. Perhaps they left, if they are from the heavens, from the stars, and they left and they took everything with them. It was not for us to know, for whatever reasons that had to be. We had to strive and discover on our own, without their aid, without them leaving things behind that would tell us, yes, definitely, we were here and this is what we did. This is what we accomplished. And then we had to leave, or this is why we left. It is up to us to gradually, bit by bit, discover that once again. And it takes a lot of time. It has taken hundreds of years, possibly thousands of years. Remember, the Earth is 7 billion years old, if not even older. A lot has happened prior to that. But bit by bit, we are discovering. Perhaps they left because it was just here to plant a seed, to help us evolve at that time. They wanted to see a species here, a civilization, flourish here. They did what they could, or in their wisdom, they thought what they could do for us, and then they left. Until they return again, until we reach a level of knowing, of intellect, of achievement in various ways in society, that then they will finally come back or finally connect with us once again. Or we will be able to reach out to them and they respond. I do believe, from what I have been sensing, from what I have been feeling, from all of my research, from all of my knowledge, from all of my senses, from my spiritual gifts, that the coming of the next phase will be in this century, perhaps even this decade, where finally we will find out that truly we are not alone in the universe. I know for a fact that there are others and that have been here, and they've made themselves known to many. But it still is an enigma because people still, the majority still doubt. They don't believe. Not enough have spoken up yet, or not, it hasn't happened to enough. Then we also have our leaders, our governments, keeping things quiet, in secret. Perhaps for our benefit, or perhaps for something else that we are not knowing of, until the time comes. Once that does come, then all secrets will be revealed, and then we will know. This all falls under this great time period, this great grand conjunction, this great mutation. The age of Aquarius has finally arrived. And we are blessed to be here. Now it is our time, our chance, our opportunity to heal the world, to heal society, to heal civilization, to heal individually. You can feel it in the air. For those of you who are sensitive, you can sense the change taking place. Just in this past year alone, more than ever before, there is a shifting in the fabric of reality. It is the best way I can explain it to you. It's very difficult to explain these types of concepts, for it is so foreign to the majority of people. They don't pick up on it, they don't understand it, they do not see it enough. They are not educated or brought into knowing of these things. It's not part of the world culture, really, on a grand scale. However, it is what is occurring. I feel it. I feel the lightening of this age taking place. A great shifting in the essence, the feeling, the fabric of reality is taking place. I do feel that lightening happening. I do feel that sense, that essence of positive starting to come in, a sense of reality returning once again, a sense of the negative influence that has fallen on this world for the last several decades starting finally to depart. The influence of the negative energy, the influence of the satanic force is weakening. It has continued to try to take control of the planet. It wants dominion over this world and has tried in countless ways. And as we've seen in the last few decades, in the last few years alone, how that influence has tried to have its grip, but has failed and will continue to fail. For no evil can ever overcome good. No evil can ever overcome the power of the light. No evil can ever overcome God. But there has been great pain and suffering and misery and atrocities that we should never have, experienced. That it has been able to do. That is what we have to look at, and that is what we must prevent from happening again, and not allow that negativity to have a grip on existence to this magnitude ever again. It will not be easy. Evil is relentless. Evil wants to survive. Evil wants to dominate. Evil wants to be supreme and will stop at nothing to attain that. That is what we must be aware of. We must be conscious and awake and prevent that from being. Those in the heavenly realms have been fighting for countless age against that, but they cannot do it alone. We are sentient beings here on this world. We have free will. We have to fight along with them to prevent that from being so. We must change our mindset of negativity, of evil, and we must combine the shadow self to work with us, not against us. For the shadow self can teach us a great deal of things and is there to help us to elevate our spirit and our soul to advance till we finally reach the heavenly realms and the light and never have to return to this type of existence ever again. We must combine all the elements to accomplish that goal and become light. That is all that is encompassed in this great mutation. Hope, the future, bringing light and bringing eternal love to this world and moving forth in our evolutionary process to go from here to the heavens, where the physical heavens or beyond. It is our opportunity now, and we are here. So in a few days from now, on the 21st of December, it is the beginning. I pray that all of you are open and welcome this new beginning, this new era of our existence as a time of joy, happiness, peace. It is our time to move ahead, to evolve into the future, to become luminous instead of sapient. We are gradually leaving the terrain way of existing and moving up and vibrating higher and higher and higher to the light. Welcome the new age of Aquarius. Welcome a time of peace and goodness and love. Please do everything to help this, to make it along, to bring peace on this world. We are so blessed to have experienced this and to have this. We cannot fail. We cannot fall into the dark. We must always move and go to the light. Welcome to the new age. And with that, I leave you. I hope that you found this inspirational and that you take this light with you. Enjoy your new way of being and enjoy the new feeling that you have. You're coming back to your original self, but also new and blessed. Go forth, live. Live in light, live in love, live in peace. Be blessed always. Let it be. Thank you for joining me this evening for this program. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. We will be having a Christmas celebration. So I will be posting, that on my page, The Angelus Colon Transpsychic Express, and on Facebook. And we will have a lot of surprises there as we celebrate, the holiday season. So we've just now completed Hanukkah, but the energy still goes on. We're in the holiday season right now. So we're going to keep celebrating Hanukkah. And we're going to be celebrating Christmas and Kwanzaa and the New Year. So we're going to have a lot of things in our program next week to celebrate. And there's so much to enjoy and to celebrate and to be happy about. So with that, I'll leave you. Take care, be blessed. Enjoy this wonderful season. We're filled with probabilities. We are filled with possibilities. Our future is endless. Be happy, be blessed, and good night.